look at where we are. I mean, this is 1.5. So we started taking off like a rocket. We passed 1.5, and we've been well above. We hit 1.8. Here's maybe 1. This is 1.8. Maybe this is 1.85. We've hit specific individual days above 2, like 2.06, things like that, 2.08, things like that. So we're accelerating like a bat out of hell, basically.
Oh, hi, thank you for joining me. So, this is my year review in terrifying temperature anomalies and my miniature painting for the year and collecting. So, let's go ahead and take a look at what I painted this year. If you guys remember, last year my goal was to paint more than I painted last year, and I managed to paint less. Last year I think I got 40 miniatures painted, this year about 17. That is not to say that I haven't done a lot of work on my miniature gaming hobby. Most of that was in the area of my hobby workspace. You can see behind me, I set up a shelf on the wall. You may or may not be able to see there's also a riser behind me. And I've definitely organized things quite a bit more, and as well as 3D printing. I did mention last year that I had an FDM printer which I intended to set up. I did set that up this year. Unfortunately, after printing the initial test print, when I printed something else that I wanted to print out, it promptly clogged, and I'm going to need to disassemble my hot end and try to clean that up and figure out what's going on. On the other hand, I also picked up a very nice resin 3D printer. This is the Elegoo Mars 3. I also got the wash and cure station with that. And I have those set up very nicely. I actually built a table to allow me to have some more space for my 3D printing. I invested in more PPE, so I have an actual chemical apron. I have 2 fans set up in this room for adequate ventilation. I also have an air quality monitor. I did come up with what I think is a very fun and good-looking paint scheme for my Gene Stealer Cults army. Now, I'm still working on colors a little bit for the just sort of plain Gene Stealers, like pure strains, in terms of getting the blues and purples right. But these neophytes that I have here, I think, came out really well. I was able to get 9 of these painted up in a relatively short period of time, probably 1.5 weeks or so, something like that, less than 2 weeks. So I was really pleased with that. And as I got to the end of the year here, I quickly realized that I'd really done no miniature painting this year. So in order to bulk up the number of models that I'd painted, I went for some Necrons. These guys were also all prepped and ready. These Necrons, I think actually turned out really well. I really like how these paint up with speed paints. I mentioned last year. I got a handful, I guess 3 Immortals painted up here, 2 Deathmark, a Royal Warden. I also got the Plasmancer and an Overlord painted. I believe this is the Overlord from Indomitus. So very excited about that. I actually just barely got to play a game of Kill Team with several of these models in it with my buddy, which was a lot of fun. Despite the fact that I did not paint nearly as many models as I wanted to this year, I'm still pretty pleased with my hobby progress this year. And I'd also like to share with you what I picked up. My goal, of course, was to not buy new models until I had painted old models, and I absolutely broke that rule this year. So let's take a quick look at what I have. This is, of course, Scabix Plague Pack. These are Plague rats. I really like the Eshin, is it? And Clan Molder is pretty cool too. So definitely, some options from the Skaven range. I'm really hoping that they do a bit of a refresh on Skaven. I have to assume that is due sometime, hopefully in the near future, but I'm really glad that we're able to get these kinds of sets in the meantime. I don't think I showed this one off last year. This was a Christmas gift, maybe a birthday gift, I forget, from my buddy, the one who I mentioned in relation to Wargaming. This is a Slaves to Darkness Start Collecting set. Now, they actually came out with new Slaves to Darkness, speaking of range refreshes, and I don't want to say I don't like them, but I really prefer these sculpts in particular much more than the new ones. Something about the new ones just is not really my bag. These ones are just perfect, and I absolutely dearly love this set. So I'm so happy that he got this for me. Of course, would have wanted nothing more than to put these together and paint them this year, but I have a whole lot of other miniatures to paint before I'm going to get around to this kind of thing, but very excited about that. Sticking with gifts from my buddy, this year for Christmas he got me Space Marine Adventures, and this seems really cool. I was asking him, you know, hey, are there any games that you play solo? And he was saying one of them was Space Marine Adventures, or probably the only one that he plays solo. This is the Labyrinth of the Necrons. What's cool about this is, one, it comes with 5 Space Marines, and I actually do not have any Space Marines, and I've never painted any Space Marines. So someday, when I can get around to putting these 5 Space Marines together, I will have 5 different chapters of Space Marine that I can try out painting, and I believe that this has markers for Necrons. Now, since I have a whole bunch of painted Necrons, I will be able to substitute those into this game and play with my painted Necrons, so I think will be really cool. Next up, Resident Evil 2, the board game. Now, I was super excited when, was it Steamforged Games? I found was releasing a board game based on Resident Evil 2. I have wanted to do something like this, just, you know, in a custom way for the longest time. Now that there's something official, I am just beyond the moon, right? I've only played a little bit of this, but unfortunately I came to Resident Evil 2 release a little bit late. In fact, I have not kickstarted any of the Resident Evil games, but this one in particular, I got most of the expansions that I wanted, but I missed out on this alligator. Now, thankfully, Steamforged Games did a kind of limited re-release of a handful of sets, and one of them was the giant alligator for Resident Evil 2. You can see here, it is from the Steamforged Games Vault. I definitely jumped right on this. I actually got a couple of these and ended up selling one, which basically paid for me getting this one, which was nice. Sorry to be a dirty scalper in that respect, but this has been, it seems like quite a sought-after expansion that not a lot of people got. So yeah, I'm happy to have a copy of this. Speaking of things that I'm happy to have copies of, I got some more Nemesis. Now, I have not played any Nemesis, but I'm really looking forward to it. In fact, I have a couple of friends who have agreed to get together with me sometime soon, and we're either going to play Resident Evil or Nemesis. Nemesis Aftermath is basically an expansion that I had given up on. This is, I think, something, gosh, I don't know if this was only with the Kickstarter, but this was another one that was a little bit hard to get. But after looking around for it a bit, I found one for like a reasonable price, and I was like, you know what, let's go all in, right? In addition to that, I also got another strangely expensive and sought-after expansion to Nemesis, which is the Medic. This is just a single character, but you can add her to, I don't know exactly which games, I think it's the original game. And yeah, you know, it adds some extra rules and an extra character to the game, and again, I looked around for this, and I found something for a pretty reasonable price. I think this goes for quite a bit sometimes, but this was within the realm of, you know, something realistic that I was willing to pay, so I went ahead and grabbed it. Another kind of one-off expansion character, so to speak, is Sherry. Sherry Birkin. This is the sort of like child Sherry from Resident Evil 2. This was, I believe, directly from Steamforged Games. I think they were having a sale on just random bits and bobs that they had, you know, left over from some of the Kickstarters, and I went ahead and picked this up. And finally, the Resident Evil, the board game. For some reason, Steamforged Games came out with Resident Evil 2 first, probably to coincide with the remake of Resident Evil 2 on the, you know, at the time current gen platforms. And then they released Resident Evil 3, probably again kind of coinciding with the remaster of Resident Evil 3. So finally we get back to the original Resident Evil 1. The board game, and I also got the 2 expansions for it. This is also something I did not kickstart. I think I had mentioned possibly kickstarting it in one of my previous videos, but the Kickstarter whatever it is, Slacker Backer, ran out like the day or two after I made that video. So anyway, I went ahead and hopped on this deal though. They had a kind of a pre-order sale, and it gets you the 2 expansions and the main game. You know, it was a good couple $100 or something, but again, I feel like it's worth it. I'm just such a big fan of Resident Evil, and a tabletop miniature game is like how I really want to indulge in that universe right now. You know, I unfortunately added much more to my pile of shame this year, but we'll see what we can do about that again next year. I hope that you will join me for that journey again in 2024, and I will look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed this, and I will catch you later. Take care.